2021 committee meeting for TRAC. We're holding this meeting virtually in light of the ongoing current medical emergency. PSTA has developed several methods for ensuring the ability of the public to comment. And Julie, if you'll help me with that, I appreciate you following through the details.
PSTA has developed several methods of ensuring the ability of the public to comment prior to and during the virtual meeting. It has established these options. During the meeting, the public can provide public comments via telephone by calling 1-415-655-0002. The meeting ID is 180-112-8464. Individuals will be able to speak for 3 minutes during the public comment period. Again, to make a public comment today during the meeting, members of the public should call 1-415-655-0002. The meeting ID is 180-112-8464. The second option allowed for the public to submit written comments prior to the meeting by mail to PSTA. The third option allows the public to submit comments by email before or during the meeting at the public comments at psta.net. If the emailed public comments are received before or during the meeting are 400 words or less, we will read them aloud during the meeting during the appropriate time for public comment. Public comment that exceeds 400 words will be provided to the board members in writing. Any documents that the public submitted to the clerk have been provided to the board members prior to this meeting. All comments submitted will be included as part of the public record for this meeting and will be considered by the committee prior to any action taken. When addressing the committee, the member of the public must first state his or her name and his or her address. At the moment, I'm going to call for public comments. I do not see anybody on the public comment line. I'm going to ask Clarissa to confirm that there have been no written public comments.
We have not received any written public comment.
Thank you.
Right. Oh, no. Unbelievable.
What happened?
Unbelievable. I just lost power.
Oh, sorry.
Coming back. Unbelievable.
I can still hear you.
There I am. When it rains, it pours. Give it a second. We're going to take a attendance, make sure everybody is here that was here, and make sure that you can both hear and talk in case, well, first off, can I confirm that this is, because of state regulations, this is not a formal meeting. We won't be having any votes today. This is for information only, to give PSTA a chance to give us information and for us to learn and carry on as ambassadors for PSTA. I'm confirming that.
Correct.
Okay, and that's great. I mean, that's 90% of our job is to learn and to give you individual feedback. I mean, the voting is good to give you the sense of our board. I'm almost back with power. Can somebody help me? Who here has the attendees while I boot my laptop back up? And just make sure that each person can both speak and hear. And if you'll start with me, I'm here. Who can help me with that? Cassandra, or is
Want me to read through the list here?
Yeah, if you could, that would be great. Thank you. While I boot up my laptop, it's back.
Okay, on behalf of Chair Kovar, I would like to confirm you can all speak and see each other, so we will do a roll call. Chelsea Anderson.
I'm here.
Roman, I'm going to say
Balco.
Sharabalco, thank you. Deborah.
I'm here.
Gloria.
I'm here.
Jason James. Jason James is not here. Mark O'Hara.
Here.
Maxwell Johnson.
Here.
Teresa Dunphy. Teresa is not here. Sebastian Zamardo is here, and he's raising his hand because he does not have audio. Ed Klump. Ed Klump is not here.
He is here.
Now I
Sorry,
unmute it.
sorry, sir. Mary Young? Michael Davenport?
Here, he's here.
I see he's here.
Yeah.
Can you unmute Mr. Davenport?
How's that?
Yes, I hear you now. Thank you. Mark Boyce?
I'm here.
Okay, and Kim Renke?
Here.
We are also pleased.
Yeah, if we could, thank you guys and appreciate your patience. I'm sorry I'm having crazy technical problems today, but I'm back, got my laptop back. I can see all of you. Again, Happy New Year. Like to welcome the 4 new members. Where are you? Sebastian, Michael, Maxwell, and Mark. Appreciate your service. Glad you're here. We're going to be out here to learn stuff and, of course, and listen. Part of joining the TRAC committee is your chance to talk to PSTA, and that's what we'll be doing this week in particular as we do our annual initiatives, what we want to be working on and how we can help PSTA. So welcome aboard. Thank you. Now at this point is, again, the public comments. Are there any members of the public? We said no, right?
Yeah, there is nobody on the line right now. I'm just showing them the line for the benefit.
Okay, great. Thank you. Then let me do my chair report. As you know, it's my job to attend the board meeting, which is available to everybody on YouTube. I encourage you strongly to do that. This was the end of year meeting. Brad, are you here? Hi, Brad. And
Hi.
it was the reappointments, the reappointments of the committees and the public transportation safety plan. Brad, we had a change in some of the memberships. If you can just tell us, I know we lost our long-term chair. And are you excited about the new members that are aboard at the board of directors?
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. Yes, I'm Brad Miller. I'm the CEO of PSTA. Thank you all for being here and volunteering your time to be on this great committee. You are very important to us because you are our riders and you bring a very important perspective to our board. And as your chair, Kovar, just mentioned, January 1st is the turnover point for many of our board members. We had kind of a record turnover this year where 5 brand new members starting in January. That includes our chair, Joe Barkley, who served in many capacities but was a longtime member. He left. So our incoming 2021 chair, I'm very happy because she's a rider like you, County Commissioner Pat Gerard. PSTA has 15 board members, most of which are elected officials all across the county. Those include 4 county commissioners, and then St. Pete City Council people from, City Council people from St. Petersburg to Gulfport to Oldsmar up in northern Pinellas, so all over the place. And 5 new members and two additional members that joined us since we went virtual with COVID a year ago. So almost half the board is relatively new, and it's been good to get to know them. We've got 2 new county commissioners, Renee Flowers from South St. Pete, and Kathleen Peters is joining PSTA. And then I just heard today we have a new St. Petersburg City Council person joining us. That's Deborah Figgs Sanders. She's a councilwoman from St. Petersburg. Jeff Gow is a councilman from Dunedin who is just joining us. And who am I missing? Well, we got, Michael Ferdovich from Gulfport. First time we've had a person from Gulfport on our PSA board in more than 20 some years. So it's exciting to get them represented because they've got some good bus service. But with that, that's pretty much what we did. Again, Chair Gerard will be leading us in the next year. And we've got some exciting things you'll hear about.
Okay. Thanks, Brad. That's a great insight. And I didn't realize it was that big of a turnover, but yeah, I know we're going to miss Joe Barkley. He's been there forever and has worked his way up, serving on all the committees, headed different committees, and then finally ended by heading the directors. So he'll be missed. He's a good guy.
Indeed.
All right. He's not died. I mean, he's just left PSTA.
He's there. Yeah.
I didn't mean to be giving his obituary. I meant to just say that we'll miss his skills within the PSTA board. All right. Then with that, let me move on and ask for the other reports. Forward Pinellas, Gloria, if you could give us a hand. I'll apologize that I missed the December meeting. We had an in-person meeting and I arrived late and the door was locked. How embarrassing. What a detail went on.
And the in-person meeting did not have a quorum. And so it was basically just, again, informational things. And the sound quality was so awful in that situation. We couldn't hear most of what was going on. So kind of until something gets resolved relative to COVID, I don't know, what is going to happen, because without a quorum, we couldn't vote on anything at Forward Pinellas CAC either. So
Gloria, would you just for the new members tell everyone what Forward Pinellas is and why it's important that we have representation from this committee on that Citizens Advisory Committee?
absolutely. Well, I'm not going to do a very good job of describing exactly what a metropolitan planning organization is. You all know those things. You could probably do that a whole lot better than I. But Forward Pinellas, where we're dealing with transit, they deal with more than just transit. They deal with, the roadways. They deal with land use planning, and try to, orchestrate what needs to happen in the region, so that the roads can handle the cars and that the pedestrians are cared for and that transit is part of the equation. And so a couple of us had gotten involved with Forward Pinellas on the CAC, the Citizens Advisory Committee. And we realized that there was so much overlap, that we had so many mutual opportunities with PSTA that at this point in time, there are two of us who are on our TRAC committee who are also on the Forward Pinellas CAC. Duncan and I are both that. So that we're speaking transit a lot at the CAC, and that we can bring back to all of you what we're hearing in the more global, what's happening in the county.
Right. For our new members, to understand a little bit about what their charge is, Forward Pinellas, Pinellas County gets money from the federal government for transportation, and Forward Pinellas is the place where we all discuss where that money goes. And as Gloria mentioned, some of it goes to roads, some of it goes to transit, some of it goes to bicycle, pedestrian. And so Forward Pinellas is a planning organization for transportation and land use, but the big thing that they do is take those federal dollars that are allocated to Pinellas County, and that board decides where they go. And so it's such a great opportunity for us to have Duncan and Gloria on their Citizens Advisory Committee as they start to discuss where all of that funding goes and make sure that transit gets its fair share.
If I can add, I say this all the time, I don't know if I've said it here, how Pinellas is really advanced among the counties in Florida and around the country, in that we used to have, by requirement from Tallahassee, two boards. There was a separate board for planning and land use, and then a separate board, the MPO and the MPS. And somebody finally said, this is crazy. There's an 80% overlay. We wanted to change the way the buses run. We got some money for the BTX, but does it affect the zoning on this certain corner? And you'd have these two different boards always. And so they merged the two, and that's where the name Forward Pinellas came, rather than calling it MPO-MPS. I forget what the other name was. So by merging those two, they come together at one point, a single board representing the whole county, whether you're talking about, should we widen this road? Does it impact the property? If someone says, I want to change this commercial to residential, I want to pave this parking lot and put in an apartment building, it affects both sides. Now we see it when they're doing just the pure stuff of transit and just the pure stuff. But it is fantastic. And the most amazing thing that I have no idea they do is they have, their poor job is to merge 32 different government agencies, unincorporated Pinellas and Gulfport and Dunedin and Tarpon, so that when a road like Alt 19 is going to be widened and it has to cross 11 different government agencies, they all can decide that on April 11th, they're going to pave, and they have to all get an agreement. And then if they say, oh, we're running late, couldn't get the cement, we need to move it to May, all of them have to know that. And that's one of the things this committee does, is they're like the conductor of the orchestra. Pinellas is amazing. I don't know how other counties would get this done. And so I'm really proud to be associated with it. Every time I go to those meetings, I just sit in awe. The professionalism, the expertise, the coordination, the funding. Yeah, we always complain there's not enough for buses, but the stuff they do very, very well. That's what you guys should know. And we're all invited to come to that committee. Anyone in the city, and by the way, your neighbors, your mother-in-law, anyone you know can come sit on that CAC, come join it if they're interested. Bicycle paths, the transit, there's too many cars running through my neighborhood. Well, come sit on the CAC,
Oh, by the way, there's one other real quick thing on Forward Pinellas, and that is that I'm also involved with, they have a subcommittee there that's where they're dealing with Safe Streets, Pinellas, and Vision Zero. And I've reported a couple of times to the committee on the meetings we've had for Vision Zero. And in fact, just today, I got some of the paperwork. They're trying to sort of finalize the plans for the coming year relative to that. So all these different things in different areas, but we're all working toward a common goal. Vision Zero really helps bus riders who are needing to cross streets and making sure that there's safe access there.
Well, if you think about it, the folks who ride bicycles on the bicycle path and put their bike onto a bus to take it downtown, or as we joke, everybody who rides a bus is a pedestrian up until the minute they board and from the minute after they unboard. It's absolutely wonderful. It's a great committee that it's great to be part of it. Ooh. All right. Then with that, is this an appropriate time to discuss the other committee? Was that part of Forward Pinellas, or no, that was part of PSTA?
PSTA, and I'll save that for member comments at the end.
Okay, very good. Let's move on to the next item from the agenda, if you guys all got the agenda, and that's for Nicole to discuss the sustainable plan.
Yeah, and Chair Kovar, this is Brad. If it's okay, I'm going to kind of kick it off and introduce this. And
Excellent.
I am very excited.
Who doesn't love sustainable?
Yes, that's right. And I do apologize. I'm going to have to probably jump off in the middle of this to go to another Zoom call. But this is very awesome. And I want to thank you. I want to anoint, if you didn't know that already, but each one of you TRAC members is a complete awesome environmentalist because you are riding public transportation. And when you ride public transportation, you are helping save the earth and reducing greenhouse gases. So, of course, our sustainability plan, which you're about to hear from, is green. It is, and you'll hear about that. But what I'm most excited about this plan, which we started about 6 months ago, I think we told the TRAC we were going to start it, is how comprehensive it is. It covers all aspects of what we do. It's not just green. It's finance. It's about financial sustainability. It's about the way we provide bus service all over the county to everybody in a sustainable way. It's about how we entreat our employees. It's all of that combined. So I think it's going to really be such an awesome plan that it's going to become our strategic plan for our entire organization, so we can all feel great about PSTA. So with that, I will pass it first to Cassandra. She's going to introduce her team. It's the planning department that really did a great job in getting this together, but I want to ensure the TRAC committee members that all of PSTA, from maintenance to operations to safety, everybody to finance was all involved, but it was our planning group that took the lead on this. So take it away, Cassandra.
Thank you very much, Brad. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Cassandra Borchers. I'm the Chief Development Officer at PSTA, and I am really proud and excited to have with me today our Director of Planning, Heather Sobush, and our project planner, Nicole Dufa, who did the heavy lifting on this plan, getting all of those departments together, as Brad mentioned. Julie, you want to hit the next slide? So some of you may remember our former strategic plan, our path forward, and you're not intended to read every detail of this strategic plan that we had about 5 years ago. And we started working our way from everything at the base of this path forward, customer service, to the top, to our visionary projects and our innovation projects. And we've done a lot of work out of this strategic plan, next slide, including our scorecard, which is our performance count scorecard. You may have, for those of you who have been at our facility, you may have seen this on the walls. Our leadership PSTA program, which is all about developing our people internally, and the sustainability commitment that we made with the American Public Transportation Association, which is our industry organization. And we were one of the first agencies in the country to make this commitment to sustainability. And we worked very hard to get to a silver level of recognition under that sustainability commitment. But we knew we could do better, and we wanted to get to a gold level of commitment. And so we took all of these plans that we've been doing under our existing strategic plan and started to take a look at how we could take the lessons learned out of sustainability and make them our strategic plan for the agency. So next slide. We looked at several different peer agencies across the country, some of which are also doing very innovative things when it comes to sustainability. We also talked to our internal stakeholders about what were we doing in every nook and cranny of the organization that could be considered sustainable, and then how would we track them to develop a reporting tool. And what we came up with is there are 3 areas that we are focusing on in this strategic plan. The environmental, which is quite the obvious one when you think about sustainability, but that triple bottom line of making sure that when you do something green, it means green in the bank is also really important. Is this economically sustainable for us as an organization? And thirdly, this is a very important subject nationally right now about how are we making sure that we're taking care of our community and the people who work for us. And so making that connection between the value that we bring to the community, but then also how are we developing our workforce, that social aspect of sustainability. Are we going to sustain our staff and our skill base as we move forward into a new era of transit? I'm going to turn it over to Nicole to start talking about this triple bottom line and what are some of the projects that we have in each one of these areas. So Julie, if you'll go to the next slide, Nicole, we'll start with the healthy communities and workforce.
And if I can ask, if everyone can mute, if someone's cat is mewing or dog is barking, we can all mute ourselves, that will help.
Thanks, Duncan, and thanks, Cassandra. Can everyone hear me okay? I have a speaker issue. I think so. Okay, so as Cassandra was saying, we took a triple bottom line approach to our sustainability plan, knowing that environmental sustainability is only one type of sustainability, and we wanted to do more, especially knowing that we believe in our workforce and our community. So the first section that we incorporated into this plan is healthy communities and workforce. This is what we consider our social sustainability section. This section, this is the part of our plan that includes a wide range of goals and strategies around resilience and understanding our impact of climate change and how we continue to put transit service out on the road, not just climate change, but our current global pandemic. We're also focusing on the safety and security for our riders and employees, and understanding how we are resilient in the midst of any form of impact, whether it's disaster or global pandemic. Next slide. In addition to resilience and safety and security, this section also covers, as Cassandra was saying, our diversity, inclusion commitment. How are we engaging in our community? The customer service that we're providing to our riders, as well as the workforce training and wellness programs for our employees. Some of the projects, as you saw some photos, Leadership PSTA as a training and professional development opportunity for our staff. It's important to invest in our employees on both the professional level, but also our health. And we have our wonderful wellness program that we've been expanding upon, as well as our diversity and inclusion section not only focuses on promoting diversity and inclusion with our staff and our hiring practices, but also with the businesses that we partner with. So how do we work with our disadvantaged business enterprises, and how are we supporting those businesses as the local transportation provider? In addition, all of you will have seen or should have seen our partnership with Feeding Tampa Bay. That's something that we hope to continue with our participation on the St. Pete New Food Council as well, and how we continue to support our local community will be important for us moving forward. Next slide. In addition to our impact in our healthy communities and workforce, we're also thinking about economic vitality. As we say, where green meets green, where being environmentally sustainable, where being sustainable, period, is good for business. Our approach towards economic vitality includes how do we see our ridership and mobility? What sort of services are we putting out there? You know, you'll see our Direct Connect expansion as an investment in mobility. Our Sunrunner BRT groundbreaking, the first BRT in the region, as well as even our autonomous vehicle pilot that you may have had a chance to ride, hopefully so, if not now, in the future, before we are finished with that pilot. And really just focusing on our financial partnerships to ensure that PSTA has the financial stability for our capital projects and operations in the long run. So these are just a few of the projects that you'll see in the plan, and I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Heather Sobish, who will talk about our environmental sustainability and conclusion. Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole. And thanks for providing that information on the economic vitality and healthy communities and workforce sections of the sustainability, or the strategic sustainable plan. As Brad had mentioned earlier, it also, of course, includes a pretty large environmental component. So first and foremost, one of the best ways, as Brad mentioned, that we can contribute towards environmental sustainability is to provide the transit service and to make it attractive for all of you and for others to ride. So one of our major successes over the last few years has been the conversion of our fleet by adding more environmentally friendly vehicles. We currently have over 88 hybrid buses and soon to be 6 electric buses in service. And so along those fronts, we have made great strides in reducing our greenhouse gas emissions, and we'll continue to do more of that as we add more environmentally friendly vehicles to our fleet. Another highlight has been a reduction in energy over the last few years through the implementation of a more energy efficient HVAC system, as well as conversion of a bunch of our lighting to LED lights. And then also a solar energy project is being planned to help us offset the energy demands of our campus. Next slide, please. From a water use perspective, we will be implementing a new, more efficient bus wash that will efficiently store, reuse, recycle water. So that will help us lower our water demand. And then On the waste front, a few years ago, we implemented an internal recycling program that has greatly increased the amount of recycling on campus. And we do plan to expand that to riders by offering recycling at transfer facilities, and then also to evaluate a composting program for food waste, and that would be on campus. And then next slide. In terms of putting this plan in practice, it will serve as the guiding document that encompasses the agency's overall strategy and drives decision-making in terms of planning, operations, and capital programming. Our outcomes will be measured by on multiple fronts. For the environmental indicators, the water, the waste, and the energy, we have a data reporting tool. And then many of the workforce, community, and financial metrics will be tracked through our existing performance count scorecard that we may modify a few of those metrics. And then finally, there's the external APTA recognition program. So APTA is the American Public Transit Association. Sorry about that. And they offer this recognition program. We're currently at the silver level, and we're working toward the gold level. And we get that by improving on those environmental indicators and then also achieving goals and then new stretch goals. Next slide, or last slide. So this will be going to the board as an action item, and they will be hopefully approving our sustainable strategic plan that will help us guide future agency decision-making. And there's also down at the bottom here, we have an unveiling event for our electric bus fleet that'll be on February 1st. So this is just an invitation to attend that. And that's all I have. I'll turn it back to the chair if you have any questions for any of us. Thank you.
That is great. I'd forgotten how much we were doing from that plan, and to see that so much of it has gone into action. I had the one question on about the third slide about power transfer. Oh, shoot, I caught a screenshot of it. Power transfer. I'll ask later.
The battery export power supply?
Yes, thank you. Is that like during a hurricane or something, or?
So it's quite an experimental technology right now, but we are working on this concept of being able to convert our hybrid electric vehicles into large generators. And so it would be one of those resilience projects where we could help the community recover by deploying some of our hybrid electric buses to maybe a nursing home that's generator went down, or even powering the lights if there's a major intersection that needs power in order to operate.
That vision is something that folks, when electric car, a Prius first came out, that said you would charge it overnight, and if you didn't drive anywhere during the day, you could run your house off of it to save, remove yourself from the grid, use your car as a battery.
Yeah, this would be a little bit different, but it's not necessarily commercially viable at this time, but we have been involved in some experimentation with it. But we're hoping that it would become more readily available in the near future. And I think we might have lost Duncan. At least he's frozen for me. Maybe could get some nods of heads if he's frozen for you.
Yeah, he's frozen on mine.
Okay, so why don't I just help him out by, is there any other questions? I think that there is is there a raise your hand feature in this one? No, you could just raise your hand, or Gloria, why don't you?
I just want to say it's exciting. Thank you for showing that. I think that's such a forward-looking plan, and I love the idea that you're talking sustainability, not just from an environmental standpoint, but also financially. So I thank you for showing it. I think it's great.
We as an industry, we've been talking about the triple bottom line, but we are one of the first in the nation to incorporate it into our sustainable plan. And so I have to credit Heather and Nicole with making sure that we're, again, at the front end of new trends in the industry. Any other questions?
I thought I saw another hand, but now I don't see it anymore.
Oh, there's a hand. Is that Roman or Bob?
I'm good.
Okay. Okay, great. Well, if there are no further questions, I think we'll move on to the February service changes. I think that this is a pretty interesting thing for you all. Oh, there you are, Duncan. You're back.
Yes, and,
Okay.
and please, next, let's go ahead and move on to the February service changes. Thank you.
So I am also going to start this off, but I'm going to introduce you to one of our relatively new transit planners, Reed Powers. He's been with us a little less than a year, but we're very excited to have him. Every 4 months, we do a service change on a regular basis. But as we started to go into the COVID pandemic, we started doing some service changes, which I'm sure you've noticed a little bit more often. But now we're going to get back on our regular schedule, and our next service change is planned for February. Next slide. You may recall that we made some adjustments to the service that protects our riders and operators. Some of that would be suspending the fares and having rear door boarding. We were anticipating something happening, and so we increased the sanitization of the buses early in the year. But as we start to look at the reduced schedule that we started and we're sort of building back from in late March, we wanted to take a look at the maximum loads that we have per bus, as well as where are we seeing in the system the need for more seats to be available. So with this maximum load per bus, there are times when the buses will be full in a socially distanced way. They will be full, and the operator is empowered to not pick up any more people until there is space on the bus in order to be socially distanced. So Reed's going to go through some of the work that he did in order to look at that maximum load per bus, as well as how we're going to add service in those areas that are a little bit stressed on our system right now. Next slide.
Yes, hello, everyone. I hope everyone can hear me. Again, I'm Reed Powers, a transit planner, new at PSTA. So when we implemented that new artificial max load of 12 people on a bus, we knew that there were going to be some increased pass-bys occurring in our system. And we wanted to know exactly where that was occurring and the severity of that. So I took data from all the buses, and I was able to make this table. You can see on the left it has the routes. And then the important column you need to worry about is the one all the way on the right, percent of stop service with the load 12 or greater. So that's showing the percent time that each route is experiencing overcrowding, or where it's reached the max load of 12 or more. That would indicate where there's likely pass-bys to occur. So the higher percent you see there, the larger the issue overcrowding pass-bys would be. So you can see the 52 is at 53%. The 19 going up to Tarpon Springs is at 35. So this is indicating where the issue is occurring and how and to what severity. So next slide, please. So I took the same data I used to make that table, and I was able to map it into these two maps of Pinellas County. The one on the left shows the 12-person max load and those overcrowding issues we're seeing. So as each one of those stops in our system, as it gets more yellow and red, that's showing a higher percent time where that route is experiencing overcrowding. So you can see the 19, you can kind of see it outlined there by the stops. Same with the 52. That's the issue we wanted to fix. So how are we going to solve that issue? Well, we increased the max load from 12 people to 15. You can see that impact on the right. This is a much better looking map. It's more green, there's a little yellow, and there's just hardly any orange in it. So we implemented that change. We went from 12 to 15. Next slide, please. We waited a little bit, gathered more data, and then we looked, well, did that change have the desired impact? of reducing that overcrowding and that pass-bys. It did, except a few of the routes were still experiencing some issues. They're listed at the top. So I took more data from our buses and kind of made the chart you see below to get a detailed look at the issue that was occurring. So this, you're not supposed to see every number in these cells, that's intentional. But let me just explain this because it's a little confusing. So as you go left to right, that is a stop as it is occurring along a route. So in this example, the CAT. And as you go top to bottom, that is showing the trip start time for each trip for that route. So this is showing the average load for every stop, for every trip for the CAT. And you can see, I apologize, it's kind of hard sharing. The yellow cells are indicating where the average load was between 15 and 17, indicating that there might be some overcrowding issues. You can see for the CAT, there's some occurring in the middle or in the beginning of the morning and then some kind of in the afternoon, but most of the route looks pretty fine. So we might address this by having additional buses only when needed. So this might only be occurring a few times a week, and we would just send out buses as needed to address the issue. Next slide. Some routes though, like the 34, the issue is more severe. So again, yellow is 15 to 17 average load, but red is 18 and above. That indicates a much stronger issue of overcrowding and of possible pass-bys. You can see this is concentrated significantly in the center segment of the route and during a certain time of day. So the beginning of the route, there's no overcrowding issue. Same at the end. We look good, but middle of the day, kind of 9:30 to 3:30 p.m., and during just this segment, there was that overcrowding pass-by issue that we wanted to address, or that we wanted to fix. So this is occurring in the 34. We also saw similar graphs for the 19 and the 52. So how does this all relate to the service change that's coming up? Next slide. So we're going to introduce this new COVID relief service coming February for the 3 routes I just mentioned, the 19, 34, and 52. And this will add additional scheduled buses. So you'll be able to see in the transit app on our website, scheduled trips during certain spans of the day and during certain segments of the route to help add capacity where it's needed to help reduce overcrowding and reduce the pass-bys we're seeing. So that's one aspect of the February service change we're going to do. Next slide. Oh, it's missing a slide. I apologize. We're also going to go from the reduced service that was in a previous slide as part of our COVID response. We're going to go from our reduced service back to our normal pre-COVID, except it's going to end at 10 p.m. So those are the 2 things we're going to do with this COVID relief service and back to normal operating schedules.
Thank you, Reed. That was really good. And I just want to make sure that everybody knows that we are going to add this service. It will be temporary as we sort of move through COVID. We'll continue to monitor it and make sure that it's working, but then also make adjustments as people get vaccinated, as the state continues to open up. We'll continue to watch these segments. We have made it an option for us to put this service out, this additional COVID relief service, and still would stay within our fiscal year 21 budget. So I want to give big kudos to Reed for looking at ways that we can address these issues, but still stay in budget. I think he's done a really excellent job in putting this together. So that's that will be your February service change.
That's, well, am I muted? Am I muted? Or that is fantastic news, and addressing a problem that I've been thinking about in particular. My question is about the analysis, Reed, that you seem to be working off of aggregate averages. If the average is over 15, I've got a...
Maybe Sebastian, could you please put yourself on mute on, maybe it's your phone?
If the average, does a driver, when he does a drive-by, actually click something or send a signal or something? Do you have that kind of data? Or is it just, do you understand? Can you intuit my question? I'm sorry for.
Sure.
Do you want to go?
Yeah, in the past, the operator would call dispatch and say, I'm full, I need help. And what we were finding is that the calls from riders who were also doing the same, calling us and saying, the bus just passed me by, you said you'd send out another, and we would, but what we found was the major locations that we were sending them was these 3 routes anyway.
Of course.
So what we're doing is we're building this into the database. So what you'll see is you'll actually see that bus. It won't just be a random bus that's not on the transit app or on the real-time system, because it's going to be part of the actual schedule and it'll be regular service. You'll see it in the transit app. So you'll be able to know where it is and catch it.
That's fantastic. So during COVID, we'll have like a bus and a half. It'll be on the half step or.
Yeah, during these times, it'll be about doubling the service in those,
those
sections.
critical hours.
Yeah. Mhm.
And I get the analysis that certain ones are during rush hour, morning and night, and the 34, because it's a backbone, is during the middle of the day. I've taken them early at night and that bus is very empty. Okay, very good. I appreciate that. Are there other questions? Boy, that's great stuff. Open it up. Then let me just also add, and I know it's kind of a crazy, as my background in math and game theory is that there seems that you can have more than 15 people when a husband and wife and a child get on, they all sit together, or I don't know, is the 15 that people can only sit in certain rows or the like?
So go ahead, Reed.
I was gonna say, yeah, if say there's 14 people on the bus and the limit was 15 and the bus stops at a stop and there's 3 people waiting, we're not just gonna pick one person to get on.
Right.
That would cause way more issues than anything else. Also, 2 ADA mobility devices are allowed on. It's 15 plus 2. We never want to just pass them at a stop also. So there's certain situations where it might go over.
Okay.
Duncan, you're exactly right. It's really at the driver's discretion to go over 15 based on how people are dispersed in the bus.
Perfect. Okay. Well, that's great. And what a great program. I appreciate you guys. I'm going to put this on Facebook. It's part of our initiative because I think people need to hear that you guys are being really heads up. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm really glad to see this. I've been on a couple overcrowded buses, after getting passed by, and then the next one ends up overcrowded. So I think having that relief will help out. Because there's only so long you want to stand around waiting for a bus that isn't overcrowded.
Yeah. And I'm up in North County, so I generally only see one person waiting at a bus stop at a given time. I'm not downtown where you might see 4 or 5 people queued up at 5 o'clock. I don't see those kind of situations, or at Gateway or somewhere like that. So I always just see someone in front of Wendy's waiting, staring. And by the way, everyone I always see has their mask ready, jump right on. So everybody's with the program, but we're pushing a year now. So you should be ready by now. All right. Any last questions? Thank you, Reed. That was a great presentation. Very intuitive. I get it. And what a great program. Let's tell everybody about it. Thank you. Then if we can, has it been a year already to discuss initiatives again and start kicking off another year? What on earth? Bob, is this you?
Yes. And it's been almost a year, but we also discussed them halfway through the year, changed them around. Welcome to the new members. Every year, this committee will usually brainstorm right off the bat and figure out what are going to be our key initiatives? What do we want to focus on? What do we want to support? And then vote on them and adopt the initiatives. Well, this year, because we're not meeting in person and we can only do info items, what we're recommending from a staff point is we're going to continue the initiatives that we've been working on for the last year. And I want to give you some history on that. Early last year, the initiatives were to do a lot of outreach, the members we were hoping to go out there and bring us into your communities and give presentations, promote PSTA, and then COVID came along. So we had to adjust those, and what we did is we transitioned that into online outreach using social media, different websites, whatever your preference might be, to help promote transit and PSTA that way. And I thought that was a wonderful idea. I love the way the committee embraced it. And then we're also continuing an initiative that we started 2 years ago called the Superior Transit Access Recognition Award, or STAR Award. And that's an award we will give to a group, an organization, a governmental entity, a business who does something that makes it easier to ride. And a good example is the most recent one went to Forward Pinellas. They came in and gave a presentation about their safe streets and, well, I want to say Mission Zero. Gloria was talking.
Vision Zero.
Vision Zero, thank you. Gloria was talking about it earlier. And those are going to be deal with safe underpasses on US 19, which help people get safely to and from our routes and cross 19. So they won an award. So we'd like to recommend we continue that throughout this time of COVID, also because we can't vote on a new one right now because it's all information. And then, well, as the outreach. And what we did when we switched over to the online outreach and the social media is we brought in our digital marketing coordinator, Courtney Grigsby, and she gave a nice presentation and helped a lot of people set up social media accounts and learn how to use them better. And so she's here today. I'm going to turn it over to her because she's going to go through a bit of a refresher about some of the things we can do to help promote PSTA and transit online.
Bob, if I could, I hate to interrupt, but for the folks that weren't here, at a 10,000 foot level, if you go way back in time, TRAC really was the recipient of information from PSTA. And you would ask us guys now and then, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And that's kind of, should we say in the very beginning, what does it speak when spoken to? And at some point we started saying, look, we've got good ideas and we wanted to start setting our own agenda. Not all the time, but like one idea a year. And I remember improving bus stops. Didn't we do art one year? We did a year on safety, writing letters. And so each year that idea of having, I like the word groundswell, where we wanted to have one thing each year. And that's where initiatives came from. Again, in the beginning, we mostly, which was important as we got organized, listened. And we would vote on stuff and tell you what, but it was neat for us to pick something that we wanted to address. And this initiative of social media just came from the fact that I use the word ambassador, but try to formalize that idea of us doing outreach. And so for those who've never heard that story, or for those of you who never tire of me telling it, Bob, thanks.
All right, thanks, Duncan.
To Courtney, yes.
Yeah, Courtney, go ahead.
Thank you, Bob and Duncan. I appreciate it. All right, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Courtney Grigsby, and I'm the Digital Marketing Coordinator here at PSTA, and I'm so excited to have all of you here today. The reason we're here is because of you. TRAC voted unanimously for this initiative last year, and you wanted to learn more ways to engage with PSTA on social media and become some of the biggest PSTA fans and active followers out there. Next slide, please. So I realize some of you have already heard this presentation. Most of this will be a review for you today, and those of you who recently joined TRAC, welcome, and we hope you find this presentation informative and helpful. So PSTA has social media profiles on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. You can see the tags here on this slide in the event that you do decide to post. And if you have not already done so, we encourage you to follow PSTA's social media accounts to stay in the know about our agency's latest news and happenings. Next slide, please. The whole reason that PSTA is on social media is to engage and inform. We have a wide reach from riders to stakeholders such as other transit agencies, politicians, and all sorts of local organizations throughout the Pinellas County area and Tampa Bay community. Facebook is the largest platform out there. Last month, it had over 2 billion active users. And this leads into my next question. How many of you have a Facebook account? Please raise your hand if you have a Facebook account.
And how many use Facebook?
All right, so I see a few hands. And then of those of you who have Facebook accounts, how many of you are active and post on those accounts? All right, I believe I see a hand or two. Okay, so as you see on the slide here, we have an example of a post from our Experience Ava campaign. And this campaign involves encouraging the community to ride our autonomous shuttle named Ava and provide feedback regarding the service to explore the idea of using autonomous vehicles as a future transit option. Something that we think you could all easily do on Facebook if you don't feel comfortable posting is you could comment on one of our posts. I'll go ahead and read some comments so you can hear some examples. So Amy Blake said, "We saw her buzzing around the other day, way cute." And then Mike Davenport said, "Saw it operating again today, very impressive." So we encourage you to comment, post, and like or react to our posts that we put out there. You also have the option of sharing the post with your friends on Facebook to spread the word. Next slide, please. Twitter is known for being a little more concise with messaging, and there's a heavy emphasis on tagging and using hashtags to reach different audiences and discuss popular topics. For those of you who may not know, a hashtag is written using what is also commonly referred to as a number or pound sign to index keywords and topics on social media. This makes it easier for you to follow topics you're interested in, and hashtags can increase the popularity, exposure, and engagement with your posts, especially when you use a trending hashtag. I'm going to go ahead and read Anthony's tweet here. It says, "Big bus news at Ride PSTA reveals name for St. Pete's Bus Rapid Transit Project." So this post here is about PSTA's Sunrunner service that is expected to begin in 2022. This is another great example of a post you can easily do. If you see any articles, maybe from the St. Pete Rising or Tampa Bay Times, go ahead and share that on any of your social media accounts. Or you can try retweeting or liking one of PSTA's tweets. Next slide, please. With Instagram, there's more of an emphasis on imagery. You'll see a lot of pictures and videos, and Debbie right here took a selfie while experiencing Ava, and we encourage you to try taking one. And if you don't want to be the star of the picture, you could snap a picture of a bus driving by or of your very own bus stop that you tend to take the bus from. And you can also capture a photo of Ava, PSTA's autonomous vehicle pilot that runs along Bayshore Drive in downtown St. Pete. Debbie also used hashtags, and we encourage you to go ahead and use some hashtags that you either see PSTA using or some other trending hashtags that you'd like to include. We encourage you to get on Instagram, like posts from PSTA, and begin sharing some of your own posts or stories as well. Next slide, please. We just wanted to drive home the reason that we want you as TRAC members to become more proactive on social media. And it's because all of you have your own network out there. You have friends and family, coworkers, and so on, and your network is only going to continue to grow. Even if you don't have a social media account yet, I guarantee that you have a network, and this is something we hope PSTA can tap into. The more we spread the word, and the more that we'll benefit as a transit agency from sharing news about our service and also spread our key messages that will help us continue to improve our service for the community. Now, here's a recap of some of the ways that you can engage with PSTA on social media. So first of all, you can like or follow a PSTA page. That would be the first step, and it's how you can stay up to date regarding what's going on with our agency. You can also like or react to a post to show some engagement with our content, or you can take some more advanced steps like sharing or retweeting a post, commenting on the post, posting your very own content, or using some relevant hashtags, or even tagging PSTA. Next slide, please. Now, I want to sum up this presentation with a spotlight of some of the ways existing TRAC members have already began being proactive on social media. A job well done, everyone. We have an example here of Duncan, who shared a post regarding PSTA's Sunrunner brand reveal. Excellent work, and this is exactly what we want to see from you, TRAC members, and keep up this great work. Thanks again for being here today and to listening to the ways you can be more active and engaged with PSTA on social media. We do realize this is a quick overview and there's a lot more to social media than covered here today. We will take any questions that you have, and please feel free to email Mary Ann, and I'm happy to answer any of those questions you may have that are more specific. I wanted to thank you all again, and we look forward to seeing you like, share, tweet, and post your way into becoming some of the best PSTA fans out there on social media. Thank you, and I'll open this up for questions now.
Question. May I ask it?
Oh, yes, Gloria,
I'm
yes.
sorry, I didn't know, because I think Duncan, are you not?
Please go ahead.
Okay. Well, it's interesting when you were talking about like the hashtags. One of the things we talked about in our initiatives is that whole issue of the image of riders. And there are some people like, oh, do you ride buses with those kind of people? And we said, we need to make sure that people understand that it's cool to be a rider. And I know we're not allowed from Sunshine standpoint to talk with each other, but it would be really cool to have somebody start to create some hashtags that are that kind of thing, that, being a bus rider, or bus riders are cool, or, riding the bus is cool. Just some that display the kind of images that we want for how really modern it is to be a bus rider and how modern transit is.
Yes, I think that is a wonderful idea, Gloria. I know in the past we've had the hashtag modern transit and it kind of tapped into what you're discussing, but I do think eventually, especially once it's safe to ride the bus again and we want people to board with us again, I think this would be a great way to incorporate this in the campaign and kind of make riding the bus look as exciting as it actually is, and kind of get rid of that stigma that you're talking about. I definitely want to write this idea down, and I appreciate that contribution you just made, Gloria. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then did we have any other questions? Great, thank you all so much. I think we can turn it over to the next item.
Thank you, Courtney. That was great information. We're going to try again for another year. It's been tough with the system tied up with COVID, but we're still ambassadors, no matter how much we're riding. Thank you for that information.
Thank you.
And then who can I ask to help? Shall we do the annual Sunshine orientation is next? Is Isabella here?
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Isabella Sobel. I'm an attorney with Bryant Miller Olive, and I'm part of the team that helps with the general counsel representation of PSTA, headed by Alan Zimmett. And today I'm here to speak to you all about TRAC bylaws, meeting etiquette, sunshine law, and public records.
And this is our penance for joining the committee, because we have to sit through this once a year.
Yes, so pretty much any elected or appointed official will have to do some kind of sunshine law or public records training. So forgive me, but this is definitely for everyone's benefit. And I'm happy to be here today to help hopefully make it a little bit more approachable. I think our next slide, please.
Please.
So, TRAC has its bylaws that were passed by the Board of Directors of PSTA. And you can really think of your bylaws as being your constitution, your roadmap, or your governing document of being a TRAC member. It really, if you have a question and you don't know it off the top of your head, the best place to look is in your bylaws. And then if your questions are not answered by your bylaws, then you can go ahead and email staff, perhaps Mary Ann or Cassandra. But oftentimes the questions the answers to some of your basic TRAC questions can be found in your bylaws. Your bylaws, govern quite quite a number of things. I think that most, as it says on the slide, it does govern the purpose. And so in Article 2 of your bylaws, the purpose of the committee shall be to provide insight and recommendations to PSTA Board of Directors and its committees on operational and transit service issues. So there you go. We're here to provide ideas, conversation, recommendations on operational and transit service issues. So that is your purpose. Of course, PSTA is very grateful for your service to PSTA and your community. That is something to think about with your overall, with your actions in regards to being a TRAC committee member. I'm just going to walk you through some important points through your bylaws. So your bylaws do contain an attendance requirement. You've got to, as a TRAC member, you've got to attend at least 80% of your meetings, which makes out to not being able to miss more than 1 out of 4 meetings, and also no more than 4 meetings in a 2-year term. So keep that in mind. It does walk through the duties of the chair and the vice chair. We've seen with Mr. Kovar, he presides over the meetings, and it is an extra step of responsibility, and a vice chair will also fill in for the chair and preside over the meetings when they're not there. Also, please make sure, and all these points I'm going through right now are actually written down in the bylaws. So please make sure that your contact information you've provided to PSTA is correct. Your email, your telephone number is very important to make sure that PSTA has the correct contact information. So when they reach out to you about meetings, you can make sure that you respond, and can't do that if they have the wrong email. So also on that note, Mary Ann does send out quorum emails, and it's very important to respond back to Mary Ann within 48 hours. We did hear, Gloria refer to a public meeting where there's no quorum, and especially for an in-person public meeting, that is it's a major time suck for those who did show up. And of course, no official action can be taken if there's no quorum. So please make sure you reply only back to Mary Ann. Please do not reply all. Just reply back to Mary Ann whether or not you can attend the meeting in response to those quorum emails. Also, of course, you need to have a quorum in order to conduct any official business. And that quorum number set in the bylaws is 1/2 + 1. So please keep that in mind. Need our quorum to be there to take any official action. So I believe, unless anyone has any questions about the bylaws, I believe we can move on to the next slide.
Quick question about bylaws. So we can continue a meeting online, I hope, due to COVID?
So due to the COVID public emergency, the governor formerly did issue an executive order that would allow public entities to meet online. However, that order has since expired. So in order to take any official action, the TRAC committee will need to meet in person. And I believe that is why, this informational session is scheduled online. But in order to take any official action, in order to vote, that will need to be done at an in-person public meeting.
So yes, Isabel and Roman, we are meeting in person with our board, but as elected officials and people who are doing those kinds of meetings on a regular basis and often meeting together, we felt that was fine for them, but for you all who this may be your only encounter with PSTA staff, we thought that leaving these meetings online until we feel comfortable meeting in person would be the best course of action for your safety and for staff safety.
Perfect. So it's until further notice, basically.
until further notice, this committee will continue to meet this way, and as Isabel mentioned, there will be no action items for you. This will be an information item only. So any comments that you all make or questions that you ask, we will take those to the board as information, just as we always do, but it would not be a recommendation from this committee, as it normally would be when you meet in person.
Okay, and I had another question I always wanted to ask, and I would always forget. So the rule that you've quoted, that you cannot miss, and I didn't miss anything, and I'm not planning to miss, but I'm interested. If you miss more than one in 4 consecutive months, more than one meeting in 4 consecutive months, it means you violated the charter, correct? If you miss 2.
We generally is, so Mary Ann is on the call as well. And we really allowed it to be over the period of the term.
Okay.
So let's say you go away for the summer and you're not here for a few meetings, that's okay. It's just, I think it's 4 in 2 years is what we're
Got it. So
we're
like
saying.
2 in a year and 4 in 2 years, but like this rule is not as strict. Okay.
Well, we're gonna look at it over a longer period of time, because people do have things that come up, but generally, in order to make this committee work, people need to attend.
Yes.
And we have removed people for non-attendance.
Right. And I didn't miss any meetings, so just wanted to know. Thanks.
If I can add on COVID, what I'm really waiting for as the chair is for things to either get better or worse, that we're sort of stuck here in the middle. If things get better and things heal and the vaccines work, then we'll start meeting again in person. And if things get worse, hopefully the governor will write a new executive order permitting Zoom to work. But we're sort of stuck in the middle where it's kind of bad, but not too bad and not too good. And so here we sit. And this solution has been perfect because we're
Things have gotten worse
community.
and they've just kind of decided not to.
Agree.
It's perfect. All right, that was my 2 cents. Thank you. And so I'm very happy with what we've reached as an idea. I want to thank Cassandra, Bob, all of you for letting us be in this middle ground, just postponing votes, because it's really about the information, what you tell us and what we can tell you. We'll vote when things get better or worse. Thank you.
Yes.
Back to Isabel.
Indeed, thank you, Mr. Kovar. Just generally in terms of etiquette for a meeting, just really use kind of the golden rule and be respectful of your fellow TRAC members and PSTA staff members. You see some of the guiding principles on the screen here. You also a little bit more in depth in your bylaws, which I believe all TRAC members have a handout of. More of my guidance would be for voting items, but if at this time the TRAC members will not be voting, Cassandra, did you even want me to go over some of the voting mechanisms, or should we just kind of skip over that for this very?
That's a good idea. Let's skip over them for now, and then when we do get back into a voting situation, we'll go over them.
Okay, very good. And I would like to point out, as a person who's attended many virtual public meetings, especially this kind of format, being courteous is all that more important, because these kind of meetings can get very chaotic very quickly if people do not, respect the person who currently has the floor. One way to, alert people that you'd like to speak is to click the raise hand icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen. That's also good if you're having trouble with your connection, or if you're having trouble with your audio or whatnot. So that's always a good way to alert the Zoom administrators that you'd like to speak. Otherwise, we can just use, just common courtesy in terms of our virtual format as well. But it's very, very important because it does get confusing and chaotic. So just keep that in mind and have patience for your fellow TRAC members. I believe we can move on to the next slide. Of course, the whole reasoning behind TRAC is to really get your input on the operational and transit services and to really have a very open and, intellectual dialogue about, what would really make the riding experience better at PSTA. So again, you're serving PSTA and your community, and just keep that in mind. And of course, PSTA is very grateful for your time and effort put into your TRAC membership. Cassandra, did you have anything else you wanted to add on that slide?
No, we'll let you keep going and I'll just give a quick summary when you're done.
Next slide, please. So this is really the legal part of it. Why I'm here. So Florida has some of the most, open public meetings and records laws in the country. Really, the motivation behind this is so that constituents and the citizens of Florida and, the PSTA constituents can have faith in their public meetings and public records. There's a transparency, and that our public purposes and are going through, without corruption, that everything is open to the public. And of course, we want the public to have faith in our public institutions. That's really the purpose behind meetings and open records laws. There are two parts. There's the sunshine, what really is known as the Sunshine Law. That's the open public meetings law, and then our public records laws. The public records law is more broad than the Sunshine Law public meeting law. So just keep that in mind. First, we're going to address the public meeting law, which is really what is known as the Sunshine Law. And of course, it applies to any gathering, conversation, or written communication of two or more members of the same board to discuss some matter which will foreseeably come before the board for that action. So for PSTA TRAC members, that's any member of TRAC and any other member of TRAC, at least two, communicating in some fashion. That can be in person, that can be through written communication of some kind. It can be a written letter. It can be a FaceTime. It can be a tweet. It can be a Facebook message. Anytime that two members of TRAC are speaking to each other about TRAC business, that is technically a public meeting. So just keep that in mind. And all public meetings should be held in the sunshine, so need to be publicly noticed, held on this forum or in person, an in-person TRAC meeting. So just keep that in mind, but I believe we can move on to the next slide. So in order for a meeting to, meet Sunshine Law requirements, we have to have these three main components, which is open to the public. That means reasonable access to the public, and also that they can meaningfully participate. We saw that today when at the very beginning of our virtual TRAC meeting, PSTA staff announced ways that the public can participate and give public comment in this meeting. So that is one way that PSTA is fulfilling that requirement for it to be open to the public. Also, reasonable notice of such meetings must be given. Your bylaws actually address this, and I believe it is 7. Let me make sure that this is correct. Your bylaws do address this. 7 days for regular meetings or 3 days for emergency meetings. That's just to be a reasonable notice to the public that this meeting is going to happen, and so that if they would like to participate, they may. So minutes of the meeting must be taken. It does not have to be a verbatim record. It just has to give the substantive issues of what happened, who voted on what in which way, and just give a general outline of what actually happened in the meeting. The idea of minutes is interesting. It's an interesting example of how the law has not quite caught up with our technology. There is no requirement that public meetings be recorded. However, many entities choose to do that. But we still have a requirement for written minutes. So that's just one of the remnants of a different time, but it's still the law today. So of course, written minutes are taken of every public meeting. Next slide, please. So you have received the do's and don'ts. Essentially, you're allowed to talk to other TRAC members. If you see each other in the grocery store or, waiting for a bus, you don't have to run away from each other. You're two human beings who know each other. You're allowed to speak. So technically the standard is any issue that can reasonably come before before TRAC, for official business. I personally, it is a slippery slope when you start talking about PSTA issues and bus ridership issues, but generally use your gut feeling for, does this feel like we should actually be discussing this in the sunshine? Are we talking about our bus ridership issues outside of a public meeting? Kind of use a gut check. If you're really talking about those kind of TRAC ridership issues, PSA issues, that conversation typically needs to be had at a public meeting. I really liked the conversations that I heard earlier in this meeting about, telling our family that we're done with the snow, we're talking about football, any of that good stuff. Those are really great conversation. Those are really great topics of conversation to keep you off, TRAC business if you happen to see each other, outside of an official public TRAC meeting. Of course, if you have any questions, you can always email PSA staff to have any questions resolved. Any questions on, I believe we're probably moving on to onto public records after this. Does anyone have any questions about public meetings? Okay, so the public record, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Hi, this is Mark Boyce. I'm a new TRAC member, and I was just curious. You're cautioning about 2 TRAC members. Were you saying if you know another TRAC member, you're not permitted to speak of any issues? Say you just happened to be on a bus and you knew another TRAC member and there was a problem with that bus driver or something to that effect. You're not allowed to discuss that with that person unless you're in
things
public?
like, let me just, Isabella, maybe I could help bring some clarity on this. If you said, I'm going to Grand Central and I need to catch the 34, what time does the 34 come? That's a fine conversation to have. That's a fine question because that's a fact. But if you say, man, this real-time system really needs some improvement, we ought to bring that up at the next meeting. That is not acceptable, right? So anything that you could come up and talk about in the meeting. Now, if you give an opinion, right, you can do that. And the other person can listen, but they cannot engage in that opinion. So let's say you have something that you want to talk about at TRAC and you want to let everybody on the TRAC know about it, and you write an email about it. Send it to Mary Ann, and Mary Ann will send it to the entire TRAC committee so that everybody has that piece of information, and Isabel is going to get to public records. Your job as a TRAC member is to then not respond to that opinion and let that conversation come to the committee.
Right.
So it's not that you can't have conversations, it's just you need to know, should I respond to this or just listen? Or should I say, I think we should leave that to the committee?
As an old time member now, it's the second half of the sentence. So often as a newbie, we get hung up on the first half. You can't talk, you shouldn't this, but it's the second half that says something that is the committee's business. So I had a lousy ride. Yeah, me too. Boy, it's whatever. When you're talking about life, that's what you do, whether it's football or buses or a snotty driver, that's not committee business. But when you start saying, we need to start talking about how many snotty drivers there are. Yeah, let's bring that up at the committee. Now it's committee business. So the second half of the sentence is committee business. Bring that up at the committee. Or CC Mary Ann so it goes into the archive and it's perfectly fine then. That's all. That's all.
Yes, yes.
Not as hard as it sounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I text people all the time. We just don't advocate for stuff that's committee business. I mean, geez, I sit on the CAC committee with Gloria. We chat all the time. We're just not over there advocating. Hey, at the next meeting, let's talk to Cassandra and get such and such done. No, we don't do that. That's all. That's all. It's easy.
Yes, just try to use your gut check. It's kind of a common sense thing. You know, again, there's a difference between, man, my bus was crowded today and my bus is crowded. What should we say at the TRAC meeting to help alleviate this problem? So they're two separate issues. And again, a lot of it's a gut check. And if you have questions, email PSDA staff. That came from, the social media outreach is great. However, there's a huge difference between, now if two TRAC committee members, both comment on, a PSDA social media post, keep this in mind. I think that, yes, I saw it and it was outstanding. I saw Ava and it was outstanding. There's a difference between that comment and I saw Ava. What can we do at TRAC to expand the ridership area of Ava? So those are two different ways to approach things, and you really need to stay with those comments, opinions, but do not comment on let's bring this up at TRAC. What can we do at TRAC to make this more successful? Just those comments that PSA staff showed before. This is outstanding. How cute! I saw it buzzing around. Those are great. Just really be careful with your comments. So I'm part of TRAC, and I really think that that we need to make sure that Ava is, up in, our more northern, PSDA areas. That's a no-no. You do not want to be commenting on, TRAC business in terms of how you're going to vote or what you want to bring up on these social media posts. But how cute! I saw it. This is great. Those are perfectly fine. So just kind of keep that in mind when you're commenting on PSDA posts or posting.
Isabella, it's already 5:30 and I know these folks have been on for quite a while. Can we hit the highlights and still cover our bases?
Sure. Next slide, please. So essentially, a public document the public records laws are much more broad than the public meetings laws. So any two members of the same board speaking about that board's business, that's the public meetings law. Public records law is, pretty much any document, sent and received in regards to official, PSTA or TRAC business. That's going to be a public record. If you're in doubt as to something's a public record, it is most likely a public record. Really, the only exception I would say are your own personal notes that are never ever used to communicate anything to anyone else. So just keep that in mind. So I would also say that text messages, if you're communicating about official public business with anyone, they're very difficult to store. I would, stick to email if possible, but just keep in mind if you're communicating with any PSDA staff or other board members about anything, just keep in mind that those records need to be preserved so that they can be inspected and copied upon request. So just keep that in mind that emails are definitely the easiest form to preserve. If you see that a PSDA email is not on one of the emails that you receive, if you get an email from a citizen about, TRAC business, you should forward it to Mary Ann, or just make sure that you back up all of your personal documents if you don't want to forward it to Mary Ann. It's easier to make sure that it's on the PSDA server. That's what I would say, but just keep in mind that Instagram messages, Facebook, all that is pretty difficult to preserve. So typically email, if you need to talk to a PSDA staff member, either pick up the phone, no public record is created, or send an email. That's the easiest way to preserve it. If you get a public records request, make sure you forward it to PSDA staff as soon as possible. There is a duty to respond to public records in a reasonable amount of time, and PSDA staff can help you do that.
It's just good to think about anything that we give, right? Anything that comes through PSCA is subject to public records. And just think about any email that you write to us, would you be proud of it to show up in the newspaper? Because that's how we think about how we communicate internally, is anything we write on any email, anything we do is a public record.
Very good point. I will say that, Sunshine Law and public records, I feel like a little bit more of the public records, they're all personal responsibility, not just the responsibility of TRAC or PSDA, but as a member of TRAC, they are personal responsibility of each and every member, including alternates. So please keep that in mind.
I think this was great, Isabel. I think, do you have any more slides or?
I believe that was it. Is that?
Okay. Yep. And just, so Isabella did a great job. Thank you very much. And I know it's a lot to take in. Please ask questions if you ever feel uncomfortable or need any assistance. You will see on your screen Mary Ann Sobosinski. Ask her to turn on her video. We've mentioned her several times. She is the official TRAC coordinator. And so if you ever need anything, you just reach right out to Mary Ann and she'll make sure that if it's not something that she can answer directly, that she'll make sure she hunts us down and make sure that you get the attention that you deserve. So she's your go-to.
Thanks, Cass.
And you'll see her email come across in all of your materials. Thanks.
And she's wonderful. She takes care of us. Thank you, Mary Ann. It's so good to see you. So everyone who's new, that's who you need. Any kind of questions, any kind of issues, Mary Ann will help you. Thank you, Mary Ann.
You're welcome.
All right. And thank you, Isabel, for a great overview. Again, guys, when you're new, especially, you start getting worried about this stuff. The whole thing is don't advocate, but you sure as hell can talk about buses and drivers and the weather. Just don't be advocating with other members. That's all. It's not that hard. It seems scary, but it's not. Then if I can, if there's no other questions on orientation, it's time to move on to the next item, which is member comments. So we can wrap it up and go home before dinner. I know that we have the report from Gloria. And
real quick thing I wanted to let everyone know, because we've talked about this also, is that as you've heard, PSTA is figuring out what to do relative to Care Ride or the DART program. And Kim and I have both been involved with that. And I don't think we have any kind of answers yet, but I just wanted to tell you that she and I have put in an incredible amount of effort. But the other thing is that I cannot believe how fabulous the work that has been done by PSTA in terms of Al Burns and the people in purchasing, how methodical they have been in doing this evaluation. And last Friday, all of us were on a Zoom call pretty much until 7 o'clock at night on Friday night. That's how long the whole program went on. And it was so careful, and it was so objective, and I'm really excited by what's going on. And excellent. Thank you, Kim, too, for all her work too.
Yeah, and I know you can't tell us the results, or there's still, the envelope has been sealed. It's not Oscar night yet, but the amount of information, and it's a great, for the new people, again, the purchasing department came to us. They said, sure, we can do some contract searching, but as rider advocates, would you help us? Would you be involved in it? And isn't that a great honor? And again, I think PSTA are just great folks, again, around the country, as you say, comparing to other transit systems. Then if we can, thank you, Gloria. Thanks for the report. And thanks for doing that work. Thanks for, and where are you, Kim? Thank you, Kim. All right. Then are there other members that have comments? I have none, and, or on any subject. And if not, I don't see any hands. Is there anything else to discuss? Because if
It
not,
was a great meeting. Thank you very much, Duncan. Thank you all to all the members. We don't normally go this long. We usually try to end by 5 o'clock. But as our first meeting of the year, we really needed to get through that sunshine and public records information. So appreciate you guys sticking around.
and again, thanks to PSTA for all your help, and we'll see you guys in a month. Thank
Do
you.
we have a schedule for 2021?
Third, Bob, third Tuesdays?
Yeah, yeah, it's third Tuesdays through, I guess, the end of
October.
the year. And thank you. I want to thank everybody. You sent some great ideas in for presentations. I've been putting those together. I've got a short list. I'll get to Marianne. And the fun part is that you were pretty much on the same page as we were. So that makes it even more interesting and more fun.
Yes, Bob, next meeting is February 16th.
Thanks.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you in a month. Be
Thanks.
safe out there.
Bye. Be safe. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Bye-bye.